Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hindsight Podcast. Always delight to have these two gentlemen here. And you can imagine that we have an extra seat in the building. So if you can make it down to the podcast at this time, you can actually just race down for another episode. But it's good to have you join us as well. My name is Yubi. And so, in one of it, Luckily Rufai is here and Wale is back. Wale actually brought the bad luck because, Wale found a way to sabotage the show today and not have one extra person. But notwithstanding, it's a nice jersey. This is a new jersey.
Yeah, it is. Second jersey.
But it's not like the new, like
But
it's
this
not
is
like the real thing, Abi.
But this is not player grade.
It is.
It's a knockoff.
This is fan grade. This is not player grade. Yeah.
It's fan grade.
Does the real one have a collar?
No, same thing. Just the quality that is just a bit higher. But it's good to be here. I mean, it's a privilege because a lot of people want to be on the show right now.
Yeah, we have an extra seat.
We have DMs.
That's shame on you.
So you have people,
Exactly.
So you have
And
people,
then-
So this is Nigeria on a square table.
do you understand?
You have
This is a square table or a rectangular table?
Come on.
square. This is square table.
It's actually a rectangular.
It's actually
table.
rectangular, but
No, yeah, I think it's square.
no, it's
It's
rectangular.
rectangular.
This is. I'm sure this side is longer than this side.
Okay, that's true.
It's
Rectangular,
share now.
but it's not a proper rectangle. You know the same.
No. See that square rectangle, bro.
No, you know that proper squares.
Kilo so.
You don't do maths.
You don't
chemical engineering now.
Squares are equal on all sides. So there's nothing like
That's
normal.
it. There's nothing like proper. What are you saying?
But you never heard of proper squares.
What does it mean?
You don't know gram.
What does
no,
it
you know what your proper
What does
squares
it
are?
mean?
What
I'm
does
trying
it
to
mean?
understand.
It means squares that are equal on all sides.
Okay.
You get.
So what will be improper squares?
Don't make a Google out now.
What is normal
Wait,
square?
Before you Google out, what will be improper
What
squares?
is normal
Relax,
square?
now. I go school now. Relax.
Few moments later.
Sorry, I was thinking about square roots.
Okay.
That's
Yes.
But I know what you're talking now.
You don't know what you did talk. Come on for there. You don't jump.
But you know in proper square
Yeah,
roots.
You don't jam
yeah.
square root
You know
and
about-
square
you know about
together.
square
You don't jam the two together. You say you know what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying.
Did yeah. Right. So I wanted to talk about a couple of topics today. We'll take the questions from the guys as well. Thanks for the questions. Very intelligent questions. And I say that in a bittersweet way because the questions get work. So we have to do a lot of work for some of them. So the questions are quite technical. We had a question that's regarding how to explain expected goals. We saw a question on the evolution of the 4-3-3 formation. We'll do that at some point in the show. So because if you go back to watch our former episodes, when we actually started the Hindsight Podcast, we were very heavy on the technical. And for some reason, we decided to be a bit more conversational. But hopefully we can find an episode to do a lot more of that because in the end, we're core football people. And these guys are some of the best as far as, technical analysis go. Right then. So let's talk about Chelsea. Because I wanted to speak about this with Luckily Rufai. Hopefully IBK can join us soon. Lagos Traffic can do incredible things. There's a sense that from rival fans and supporters that Chelsea are in a second gear or in third gear. And as a result, they're labeling the defensive tag. And that is interesting because over the last 2 years or last 5 years, I said Chelsea, in my opinion, lost their identity. So you talk about United and Barcelona and all these clubs that have, quote unquote, a DNA, how they play. I think that Chelsea's DNA as a 21st century football club
win.
is to win, yes, but to do more technical, Chelsea have always been built on a strong defensive base. That's how they've won their titles. And like it or not, that's their DNA.
Yeah.
That's their DNA. And it might not sound fanciful. It might not be the most flamboyant DNA. People say attacking and all that stuff. But Chelsea's success, and I dare say Chelsea are probably the most successful club, maybe besides Real Madrid, in the last 15 years in European football.
Yeah.
Right or wrong?
Aside
Aside
Real Madrid,
Barcelona and Real Madrid, I think those two clubs. Yeah, those two clubs.
even probably we're very close, even between them.
15 years, yes. 15
We're
years.
very close.
There's about
years.
17 titles thereabouts.
Thereabouts, yeah. Won everything.
Yeah.
And it was built on a defensive block. It was built on being solid at the back. But you get the sense now that even Chelsea fans have bought into the popular narrative that the modern way of playing has to be gung-ho, kitchen sink, thrown in, caution to the wind and attack.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the unhinging of what Tuchel is being able to build. Because Tuchel himself, if you look at him, his time at Mainz and at Dortmund, his football is actually dominates the opposition, play more in their half. And I wonder if there's going to be a time where he now says, you know what, I've done enough of this. Let's switch to that. In my opinion, if he does switch to it, that will be the beginning of the end.
I think Chelsea fans are actually fine with winning. I don't know if any Chelsea fans.
Now, since some Chelsea fans say that this system, they can agree that it's a bit defensive. They can agree it's a bit defensive. And I'm wondering, what's the plan?
Because in the end, you have a striker that just needs one chance.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I think with the way you put it, it's always very okay and very important to accept, because people talk about the structure of a club, the profile of the club. So when you want to bring in players, there's a profile of the player. The same thing with the club as well. And it helps more when the club has an identity, because that also informs the kind of players that you bring in, the manager that you bring in, even the administrators that you bring into the team. So I feel like at the end of the day, the success that Chelsea has enjoyed over the last 10 years or a little over 10 years has been based on winning a lot of titles and winning a lot of games. So it doesn't matter how they've been able to win those titles and those games, it has just been about winning them. So, and if you remember, when Tuchel was hired, because of how he played at his previous clubs, I felt like he was going to try and do the same thing at Chelsea, and so he probably would get fired very quickly. But he has come into the club. He's obviously gone in the different direction. Probably has read the room of what has happened to previous managers, of how maybe difficult the Premier League can be. And he has looked at it also with the kind of players that he has. And he's thinking, I can't possibly go play 2 defenders. Let's go with 3. Let's protect our back line. Let's be very strong at the back. That obviously has worked out fine. I don't see any reason why you want to break up a winning system, a winning team, because like it or not, why the team has been very effective now is because that's what you've worked on since you've been hired. If you want to switch, then you're going to need a lot more time also to switch to that other way of playing, which means maybe you want to switch back to it's looking like you've just been hired, right? And I think that doesn't make any sense.
Also, I think that as a Chelsea manager, you don't actually have enough time on your hands. You don't, because the owner is very much involved in how the club is being run.
Yeah, you
just have a little time to steady the ship and start winning. So you don't have time to start imprinting your ideologies or whatever. So when you come in, you're coming in there because you just want to start winning before you get the sack. So
just to quickly add, I mean, we've always talked about it. I feel like it's just a part of the agenda in the media narrative. This idea of this football. If football is not played this way, then it is not the proper way. Who started the definition of playing football the right way, of playing football the proper way? What exactly does that mean?
That's the only problem I have with the Spanish dominance of 2008.
Yeah, that's the only problem I have.
2012.
Beautiful achievements,
fantastic achievements. Showed there's a different way to play the game. Not because he wasn't there before, but to execute it at the highest level and so consistently, winning 2 Euros, almost won another World Cup. Barca were just a menace, basically, right? But to now think that should be the standard of European football, and I dare say global football, is where I feel like there's a problem. Because we have to realize that the profile of players across the
Spanish team have not been able to produce those kind of players again.
So therein, that is the definition you need. That's the answer you need. That even the people that did it haven't been able to do it again.
Yeah.
We're not talking 20 years after. We're talking just
5
years after. Yeah. So I always say that, look, this Barcelona philosophy thing, I feel like we'll do an episode on it. It is, the La Masia has done great, but the narrative built on that Xavi Iniesta thing, that this is how they traditionally play. Yes, of course, Spanish football, they keep the ball more on the ground. They play, the rondos, they keep it between themselves. But ultimately, the credits they gave to the La Masia and Spanish football as a whole was more credit they should have given to the emergence of
those
Xavi,
players,
Iniesta, and Busquets.
Those crop, yeah.
So why is the La Masia? Why
they're not producing players that can keep the ball as well anymore?
Exactly. Since the same philosophy.
Because it's the same philosophy. So the truth is that no matter how you talk about it, there are players that are naturally gifted with reading the game at 100 miles per hour.
Yeah.
That was Xavi Hernandez. He could take the ball, turn, give.
Always have an
He
extra
always
minutes.
always had an extra view, always had an extra touch, knew where the next man was. And ultimately, I think that is the only negative I have of that philosophy, that system, because they tried to, or rather, not they, but because of the English media and how powerful they are, they saw that model and wanted to copy that. In the end, the model they have used to go to the Euros, the final, and lost, it's not a Spanish model. It's a defensive model.
Yeah.
It is a defensive model. But they would rather have you believe that the model they have played, the team is more attacking now. But no, you play two pivots. It's the same pivots that managers get criticized for. You play Calvin Phillips and you play Declan Rice. Those players did not move. They moved like a ruler. Up, down, up, down. Rich James didn't even get a look in.
He didn't.
Kyle Walker is a more defensive player, and he played at the right side of. Who played right wing back?
It was
It was
Kyle
Walker.
It was Kyle Walker or Trippier. But Rich James is the more attacking guy, and he didn't get
immediately
a look in.
Immediately, Luke Shaw crossed for or scored the goal. That was it.
And that was
He didn't move past the
That was it.
midfield
So
again.
yeah, there is that. I think that there is that temptation to dislodge a pragmatic yet efficient style, and I think that's the problem I see with Chelsea. I think that's why I see them heading, because I can see the narrative building and it's slowly gathering momentum. Oh,
Yeah.
Chelsea are playing 1-0, so it's too close. The games are too close. Yes, they're comfortable, but the truth is that they haven't scored they haven't considered an open play.
Yeah, so
That's a
I get
stat-
what you're saying.
That's a stat they should be proud of. A
The,
team,
the first goal
If there's
conceded from
if there's
open play was last night.
Was it the Carabao Cup?
if there's a blip, maybe a run of 3 games that the team is struggling.
Yeah.
Would there be a pressure on Tuchel to change
And,
things?
and,
That's what it would be.
and I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
where, and I think that's where the experience of Tuchel has to come in, because just to go back to Lampard, when Lampard started, Lampard had a period where he felt like he wanted to build a team that was solid at the back. There was even a time that Lampard went with 3 centre backs. He felt like he wanted to build something solid. But when the pressure started, he played a game against Spurs and played about 7 or 5. He played about 5
Against
attacking
Man City.
players.
Oh,
Against
Man City.
That was the beginning of the end.
That was
He
the
wanted
beginning
to
of the
match
end.
Man City.
That was the
Exactly.
beginning of the end.
So why would you do that?
Kante,
That was
played
so
Mount,
bad.
And played.
He played Karabat, he played everybody
Yes.
against City.
Yes.
I'm like, what is going on?
Right, that was the beginning of the
So
problem.
was
So
crazy.
that's where the experience of Tuchel
Yeah,
also has
yeah.
to come in and say, look, I've been at PSG, I've been at all these clubs. It is going well. This is just even if you don't win in 3 games or you're struggling over 3 games, this is a system that has brought you this far. You are close to the top of the league. If you are not top of the league, you have to stick to it.
Because the game against Villa, Chelsea were not fantastic,
not
but they were in
fantastic.
control. Like Shola said in the last episode, which everybody loves, they were in control of the game, but they didn't really have a lot of chances. But
Yeah.
then when they got the ball to Lukaku, that was it.
Yeah.
And
Just
I
finish
don't
it.
see
I totally agree.
And I don't see how. I also think there's a fault in. Look, we've been watching the Premier League for a long time. I think there's a real fault in. You play teams like Aston Villa and some of these teams. There are some of the teams in the league where you feel that you should dominate them. But there are also some of these teams in the Premier League where I think there's a fault for where you believe that you're supposed to dominate
Yeah,
them.
just get
Yeah.
by.
City spent.
That is a problem as
It's
well.
a problem.
Just
City
get
have
by.
spent
That's a problem as well.
how much with Pep at the club for 5 years or for 4 years or more before they can play, the way they are playing right now. So you don't expect a team to say you have to dominate Aston Villa. Forgetting the fact that Aston Villa themselves in
Aston
the last
Villa
2 years
don't-
have spent more than £20 million.
Yeah.
You understand?
Or away at Palace, for
Yeah.
instance.
Exactly. Or we're at Palace.
There's that pressure to constantly dominate teams, and I think that whilst that is, I think that football needs pressure because the managers get paid a lot of money, and at the highest level, you need a certain level of pressure to keep you on your toes. But ultimately, and that's not to make excuses for the managers, but that's also to say that in the end, because this team is built for £500 million, doesn't mean that this team that's built
Have
for £80 million are shit.
because-
This team don't have the cameras following them as much. But
They're well
if,
drilled.
If you were to put it, side by side, right? Declan Rice, I think there's a hype growing around him, but away from the hype, he's a good player. He's a good
Yes.
football player.
I think he starts for United,
He's-
for
he's-
instance.
He's a good football player. And if you think about Declan Rice, the price tag, you would say, give or
80
take,
million.
£70 million thereabout.
Now they're saying it's more than 100.
Right? But if you play a team like Leicester that has Didi, for example, Didi doesn't have a hype around him, but of course, everybody knows the quality he has. Are you going to tell me that if City play Leicester, you don't expect Didi's quality to show
Yeah.
just because you say, oh, this team is built for
Yeah,
400 million
yeah,
pounds,
yeah.
and this
The
team is
quality
built
will
for
show. It definitely
quality
will
must-
show.
It must show. It must show.
Definitely.
Or Ruben Diaz, you play Ruben Diaz against Wolves. You don't expect Pogba to walk all over Ruben Diaz. He's a quality player.
Yeah.
So I think a problem I find in the modern game is, and the way we interpret the modern game, and that's not a criticism. That's also me saying that
You need to run over all the teams you play.
yeah.
And you need to. These days they even rate defensive players based on how much attacking contribution they have. Which I think is another
Like Trent
issue.
and Robertson.
We get defensive midfielders, wing backs, full backs. No, he doesn't have.
It works both ways. For Trent, it's beneficial to him that his attacking qualities are rated in what his overall contribution to the game. Because if you want to look at it as with a narrow-sided view, you would say Trent doesn't get into any team because he's a defender. But then when you play the midfielders that Liverpool play,
exactly.
then you can excuse him that right. So, hi there. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Please leave a subscribe on the channel, The Hindsight Podcast, and also on Instagram at The Hindsight Podcast. It's the same on Twitter as well. Leave a like, a retweet, or a comment. We'll see you soon.